is up? Hulkamaniacs, thank you so much for tuning in to another brand new episode of Big Boys and Body Slams. Episode 3. We made it to 3. Pretty big achievement. Let's give ourselves a round of applause. Nice enthusiasm. I think today is going to be a fun episode. We're glad you tuned in. Again, thank you to everybody who watched or listened to episode 2. We are on YouTube now, so everybody keep an eye on that. We're also on iTunes. We're also on Google Play. Still not on Spotify. Maybe time to...
Why are they holding out on us,
I don't know.
man?
Maybe time to poke the hornet's nest on that one. And we're on SoundCloud, of course, so you can listen to us everywhere.
Hey, and shout out to Dean Williams.
My boy.
Our boy Dean bought a t-shirt.
A friend of the podcast t-shirt.
Friend of the podcast t-shirt for a friend of the podcast. Good job, Dean. Way to wear it. Support us.
I'll clap for that.
If you would like to buy a shirt, we would love that. We have 4 really nifty designs up, and those are up at Big Boys Body Slams, no and, bigboysbodyslams.storeenvy with 1e.com.
Keep the dream alive.
Yes, bigboysbodyslams.storeenvy.com. Buy a shirt, support your friends, free marketing on the streets, and they're kick-ass designs, right? Like, they're really cool.
Dude, they're
shirts.
sweet.
You should buy a shirt. And then, again, just another way to support us, if not monetarily, just keep listening, keep sharing with your friends, rate us on iTunes. It looks like a decent amount of people already have, and that's so cool to see. I love seeing the ratings come in. Let's keep them coming. If it's 5 stars, can we agree on that? If it's a 4-star review, just don't. You know,
just
we don't
give
need
us 5
that
stars.
negativity.
Even if you want to give us 4 stars, just give us 5, man.
I agree.
mean, yeah, 5 would be good, but I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to sell out and say 4. 4 is all right.
Nah, 5
okay,
or bust.
Anyways,
what are we talking about today, boys?
We're talking about the second ECW One Night Stand pay-per-view. Not the first one that had just all originals on it. We're talking about the second one that has matches with John Cena, Edge, a few other guys. Great show. Not as good as the first one, probably, but it's right up there.
But it's still extreme.
I did like the show. By the way, I'm Zach. To my left, your right, if you're watching on the video stream, that is Luke.
Hello.
To my right, your left, if you're watching on the video stream, we have Kyle.
Hey, I'm still here.
If you're watching on YouTube, you should watch. If you're not watching on YouTube, you should watch on YouTube because we are 3 real handsome fellas, if I do say so myself. And again, ECW One Night Stand 2, I guess you could call it.
Which is weird because it's the second One Night Stand.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
hey, it works.
And again, this is kind of the official launch of WWECW, as it were.
It was a
More
real
or
hot.
less.
It was a real hot start.
Yeah, coming
to
from
a very
coming-
disappointing
Yeah.
era.
I think looking at this show with like future goggles on,
hindsight being 2020.
it's kind of sad to watch now, knowing what WWECW, which I'll keep referring to it as, would become. But just a really promising start, I thought, and to know where it went is one thing, but I think for today, maybe we should focus on where it could have went, which is kind of the mindset that everybody in the Hammerstein Ballroom that night thought, particularly Paul Heyman, who came out to open the show with a fantastic Paul Heyman promo. They're always great, but this one, there was just so much passion in his voice, and you could tell that he was super passionate about the product and that he was just really into what he was, and he believed what he was saying.
He had the entire crowd in the palm of his hand. No, it was incredible. You get chills.
The crowd was hot right at the beginning.
Of course.
Right when Heyman's ECW music hit, the crowd was nuts.
Oh, for sure. They were hungry for Heyman, and I think having him open the show with that promo that he cut was just
there's no other way. There's no other way to open it. And can I say right quick, just a quick music factoid, that the ECW theme is just like a twist on Rob Zombie's More Human Than Human. I promise. Look it up. I'm right. Okay.
He's right.
I believe you.
When the man's right,
Thanks,
the man's
pal.
right. Yeah, just great.
Heyman oozes with passion. You can tell this is his child. Like he loves ECW. Those 3 letters mean more to Paul Heyman than anything.
So I'm usually the quote guy. Like, I'm usually the guy who's paying attention and finding the really obscure quotes. And the one that stood out to me here, while he just was going on his tirade about, you know, how ECW's back and bringing the future of hardcore, he referred to the fans in ECW as the swinging schlong of extreme.
That was pretty awesome. That was pretty great.
Which just tickled me.
Yeah, he goes on.
No pun intended.
I love the line when he said, you know, it all started right here tonight. you could tell he was so happy to have his brand back. He was making a lot of big promises that unfortunately, again, with hindsight, he couldn't keep.
Well, that's kind of his MO, to be honest.
But also, it's not really his fault that this didn't work out.
That was all corporate.
Can I say, though, with the invasion angle, the WCW and ECW angle, we should have seen that coming. I mean, with how badly that was booked, we should have seen how WWE ECW was going to go down.
That's a fair point.
Yeah, they were going to screw it up. But anyway, this show freaking ruled.
Yeah,
Nice.
I really like this show and a great
one.
start to it. So after that, the crowd is really getting going, and we start, and who comes out next but ECW legend himself in what would be his first match in a few years.
And his last match.
And his last match. That's a very good point. Here comes Taz, and he comes out to just a huge pop.
With 2 Z's, even though in ECW was only 1. Kind of salty, sorry.
He's full WWE Taz at this point. He comes out, and he's going to be having a match against Jerry the King Lawler, who is not very well respected by this Hammerstein.
Well, he has a
crowd.
long-standing rivalry, I should say, with ECW dating back to the 90s, right, Kyle?
Yeah, I mean, I think he used to refer to it on air as extremely crappy wrestling.
Yeah, well, and he went back in the 90s, he went to the Hammerstein Ballroom and did the same thing and just talked complete trash to him.
And I believe that was kind of a shoot. I don't think Lawler was a fan. I think Lawler's one of those old school guys.
Dude, he's from Memphis. Yeah, he was all about just wrestling.
Yeah, right.
In his purest form.
Yeah, he was very, I don't want to say old-fashioned, but very traditional.
No, he was old-fashioned. Call it what it is.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Can I say it right quick?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
Taz's theme song here, he did use the old ECW one, and I love it. It's
a lot of good theme songs on the show.
Oh, my God. ECW had good ones. So this one was actually like, it's Kiss's War Machine, which is an underrated Kiss song not a lot of people have heard. Look it up again. I promise I'm right. Amazing theme, and it really got the crowd going. They were popping for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I will say, this wasn't much of a match, which we'll get into in a second.
Yeah.
It's clear as both these men are coming out, they're both pretty much past their prime. I think at this point we can agree. They're both, as I like to say,
have their chest covered.
They're both peak drunk uncle at this point. And this is just like a drunk uncle brawl, or it would have been. But I guess we'll get into the match. So King comes out. As he's coming out, this is an important detail. He kind of sets down his like plastic Burger King crown on the table, and he just bitch smacks Joey Styles onto the ground. That would come back to haunt him very soon as he gets in the ring. Taz and him start to have a stare down. Styles decides he's going to get his revenge. He comes in, jumps on Lawler's back. Lawler gets him into a pile driver position, which leaves his back open for the Taz mission, which Taz locks in, and Lawler falls asleep. Taz wins the match. That was it. That was the match. What did you guys think?
I thought it was good for what it was. It was I gave it 2.5 stars just because it popped the crowd so much. It gave Taz the win. It popped the crowd, got him happy. It was entertaining for what it was.
Yeah, I originally I actually have 1.5 written down, but the more I think about it, I think I'm going to bump that up to a 2, just because it was the opening match of the card. It was something to get the crowd fired up. That's all it was there for. They hated Lawler and they wanted to see him get his comeuppance. He got his comeuppance, and Taz at this point is so severely limited in the ring that this was about as much as you could have gotten from him. But it was good to see the Taz mission in the Hammerstein Ballroom again, so I'm going to bump it up to 2.
Yeah, 2 stars for sure. And like you're saying, it definitely protected the heck out of both of them. Taz, super limited, Lawler, old, and... yeah, I mean, it was a good way to start it off. You could have also went with some sort of cruiserweight bout. Like there was one other match that could have started this off that could have been more of a car crash and really got people going. But the biggest thing, ECW fans, I mean, this is just the gift from God for them. And so what they're looking for and what WWE gave to them for a lot of this show, ECW domination, is just ECW victories on ECW victories for the most part. And that, what more perfect way to start it off than just Taz just taking out Lawler immediately?
Oh, I think it worked great. I think, Taz can't do anything at this point. Right. He's so injured and so far past his wrestling days. So it's good to give him that win, kind of like Bret Hart versus Vince McMahon at that one WrestleMania. I think it was 27,
maybe
somewhere in there, where he can't really wrestle, but he gets his win, gets the crowd going, gets the crowd happy.
Yeah, for sure. Again, I raised my score. The more I think about it, the more I didn't really see too much wrong with it. I love Taz, friend of the podcast.
Yeah, me too.
Taz, if you're listening,
we'll
be more than happy to do a guest spot on the Taz show, maybe.
Oh my God.
Friend of the podcast.
Show me some captured Taz plexes, maybe. Can I say real quick?
Oh,
this isn't the
absolutely.
first time that these two faced off. Actually, 6 years before this, when Taz first got into the WWE or WWF at the time from ECW, he came in with his Thug Life Born, Thug Life Bred, that whole gimmick, and he went after JR and Jerry Lawler when they were the broadcast team. And at that SummerSlam, he had. I just remember this vividly because I remember this pay-per-view so well. Taz had Jerry Lawler in the Taz mission near the ropes, and he's just like yelling at JR, "Come on, redneck!" And so JR comes over with his hard candy jar, because of course good old JR has a hard candy jar at the table, and just shatters it on Taz's face. Like, cuts open his hand, busts Taz open. It was very satisfying.
Taz was severely misused in the WWE.
Yes.
I was just about to mention
Completely
that.
agree.
Going from where he debuted in that huge spot against Kurt Angle at the Royal Rumble in 2001, maybe?
Well, it had to be 2000.
2000.
Yeah.
I mean, what a great way for him to I believe, hand Angle his first loss in the WWF. at
Yeah, I
the
think
time.
so.
And then just the way he was used after that, and then ultimately the injuries kind of taking the toll on him and costing him kind of the duration of his career. But do either of you remember on Sunday Night Heat for a while they did the Cooking with Taz segments? Do either of you?
No.
Oh, they had like a cooking show, but with Taz, and he got to like kind of flex his comedic muscles. I bet you can find them on YouTube. You got to check them out.
He is funny for
They're
sure.
great. They're great, and
I'll
that's
have
like
to check those out.
one of my lasting WWE memories with Taz for some reason was the Cooking with Taz segments.
I really enjoyed late in Taz's career before he was an announcer for TNA when he was managing Samoa Joe. I thought that pairing was so
yeah.
cool.
Oh yeah,
Two badasses.
and
that
I'm
don't-
sure that Joe learned a bunch from Taz.
I mean,
too.
they were kind of similar wrestlers.
Yeah, kind of same build. Really good, technically sound wrestlers. Had great slams, suplexes, and of course submissions.
Yeah, I thought that was great when TNA did that.
But dude, ECW Taz was a badass.
just as intense as you can get.
My god!
Can you imagine ECW Taz versus Kurt Angle right here?
Oh my!
That's a dream match right
That
there.
would have been great.
That would have been fantastic.
Oof.
Maybe even some ECW Taz versus some Kurt Hennig or
You're getting me a little too excited now, pal.
or you want me to go farther? Joe versus Taz. There we go.
Welcome to the Taz podcast.
Oh yeah.
I guess we're putting Taz
We're just
over.
gushing.
Not even a fan, really.
Friend of the podcast, you know. So up next we
But
get
apparently not friend of Kyle's.
apparently not.
I like him, but I don't.
I feel
Like,
he's
You like the wrestler?
I like the wrestler. Yeah, I mean,
We can just leave it there.
yeah, we'll just leave it there.
Love you, Taz.
love you, Taz.
Okay,
So
Taz.
after that, we get kind of a bizarre video package. Basically, it was just a recap of the WWE versus ECW Battle Royale. So that was there if you wanted that. I guess it did kind of have the Angle and Orton thing in there, so it kind of ties into the next match.
So I guess tying into this match, ECW got 2 draft picks before their show, and Paul Heyman got Kurt Angle, and then as a video package went on, you find out Paul Heyman got the Big Show as well. So 2 very extreme wrestlers right there.
Good lord.
Yeah, so that kind of leads us into the next match, which is Randy Orton versus Kurt Angle. And I think it's worth noting, obviously, and this is a trend with any WWE performer, even people like Rey Mysterio later, who actually wrestled in ECW, hated by this crowd. Anybody who has that WWE
Moniker
branding attached to them, the people just hate. And
Well, except for Kurt Angle.
that's where I was going with that. Yeah.
Okay, I was going to say Kurt Angle was cheered
Yeah,
heavily
Kurt
here.
Angle was over with this ECW
But
crowd.
I think Kurt Angle took in those 3 letters and made them his own.
For as little involvement as he had with the ECW brand as the Human Wrestling Machine, it was super over, super successful. It's a shame it had to end when it did, but it's cool to see him embracing that B tier brand, which is what WWE treated it as.
Well, WWE ECW was kind of snake bit from the start. You know, Kurt Angle left pretty quick. The RVD Sabu issue that we'll get into later. I mean, they didn't really have a lot of good luck on their side.
Well,
and then a lot of the wrestlers, like Sandman, they weren't WWE style wrestlers.
and they were never going to be given a chance.
Nope.
No.
Nope.
So you're never going to see Sandman like you did in the 90s and early 2000s.
Yeah,
But
because
what-
you can't, if you can't have that, if you can't either be a monster or have like a 15-minute match, and your brand can't align at all, like with WWE's, like those are 3 big things you have going against you. With somebody
Yeah.
like Sandman, who isn't going to put on a 20-minute decent match, whose brand is entirely off color compared to what the WWE
Offensive.
even back then.
Oh, we'll get into that later.
Even back then was pushing. Like, so I can understand why a lot of them didn't work out. It's just that it's still, I don't know, it's still sad to see.
I still think that, I know we're kind of going on to this, but I mean, we do need to talk about it. WWE, they can't just let a good thing be. They can't just let the good formula stick. And I think you're right. They treated it like the B show, and you can tell by how these were booked, even the WCW wrestlers and that whole angle. You could tell how Vince actually felt about these. His ego got in the way of so much of booking that he treated them like they were the inferior, which how the hell are you going to get a brand over when you can't even recognize it as a legitimate foe?
Well, the thing that's interesting to me is now, without that competition level, you're seeing NXT treated as that.
Yeah.
If you think about it, people who are called up from NXT are immediate, for the most part. I mean, there's exceptions to every rule, but for the most part, these people that are coming up from NXT, once Vince gets his hands on them, they almost immediately get shuffled into the mid card or forgotten about or mishandled.
Like the Ascension.
Like the Ascension. I mean, we could make a whole episode dedicated to NXT call-ups who haven't worked out, but
well, let's get to this match. This is a
about
really
ECW.
good
Yeah,
match.
this is a solid match. So it starts out, Orton knows how he's going to be received in this building.
Okay.
And he plays it up to the max. He's pretty much playing the cowardly heel here. He's escaping the ring several times to start the match. This whole first...
By the way, Legend Killer Orton.
Yeah, Legend Killer Orton.
With the sweet theme song.
With the sweet theme song by Mercy Drive. I think it's what their name was. I had that CD because they also did Maven's theme song.
Oh my gosh.
The Human Creator Wrestler.
That's right.
Yeah. But that was a great CD, guys. Sometimes I'll go onto Apple Music and listen to some Mercy Drive.
Luke has his hand up over here.
You gonna put over Mercy Drive over the Limp?
No, the Limp Bizkit's the greatest band of all time. Mercy Drive was a sleeper. Like if I was to have a fantasy music draft, Limp Bizkit would probably be my number one pick. But I would take Mercy Drive in like the 11th round as a sleeper.
That's solid. Solid.
Yeah, for sure.
We're gonna have to draft some bands at some point.
We're gonna have to do a fantasy band draft for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
So the first, I'd say half of this match or so is very technically based. It's Angle pretty much just showing how much of a better wrestler he is than Randy Orton, which in front of this crowd gets over big time.
Oh yeah.
A lot of sleeper holds and headlocks, and he gets the ankle lock in a couple times. Orton didn't get the offensive advantage for, I'd say, 5-6 minutes in the beginning of this match.
It was all Kurt early.
Well, and it was technical wrestling. He was just making a fool out of him.
At one point, he had him in a headlock. He got him down to the ground and then just started smacking
him.
The crowd ate that up. Yeah, he did it twice.
Because then he flipped him over and was doing it again.
That's right. Yeah. Eventually, the turning point was Orton was in the corner. Angle went to run at him to do, I guess, a corner spear. Orton moves the classic shoulder into the post, and then Orton kind of just starts getting some strikes, some kicks.
Orton hit a big boy Irish whip, as I called it, right after that. He whipped him so hard that he fell down.
Yeah, he whipped Angle so hard into the corner that Orton took a bump, which I thought was pretty funny.
It was a big boy one.
It was awesome. And so he's just getting classic big man Randy Orton offense. He's hitting a couple kicks in the corner. He's hitting him with strikes, and then he goes for some mat-based wrestling, gets him into a couple headlocks, which Angle reverses in very quick fashion. The match goes on. We do get an RKO tease, which Angle reversed into something. I don't remember what now, but eventually we get a Olympics or Angle slam attempt, which gets countered into this big drop kick for a near fall by Orton. Orton, you can say what you want about him. I think he's a good wrestler, but he's got a great drop kick, especially 2006 Orton. Those drop kick, the elevation he gets on those drop kicks is amazing.
I can't say enough about Legend Killer Orton. He was great. He was fantastic. I loved him. But I can't stand watching him work now.
Yeah, no, I don't have a bad thing to say about Legend Killer, like that third generation cocky spiked hair Orton. And I think it does have a lot to do with how he's booked, because this Orton here, he's more smooth and he's just more cocky and whereas now the Viper, by the way, the Viper, they make him move so slowly and methodically, and he just takes the big shots only, and it almost looks like he's lackadaisical, and some of it's his gimmick, but some of it's just Randy Orton.
He said on record before that he's not going to really risk himself for feuds that don't mean a lot to him, which, I mean, I guess at this stage in his career, like, you're welcome to say that now.
Okay, but don't book him.
Well, I think Orton does a really good job of playing to the crowd here, like
really,
just being like
really well done,
kind of annoyed by him.
Yeah.
He plays it really well.
Yeah.
And then Kurt, Kurt like soaks it in that
Yeah.
they're chanting stuff like pussy at Randy Orton and fuck him up Kurt, and
The chants this whole show were just, this crowd was unchained.
yeah, they were
Yeah.
going nuts.
Just
There was
awesome.
some crazy stuff.
Vulgarity.
But I mean, I love how the crowd took Kurt in, and Kurt just relished in it. I thought that was fantastic.
Yeah, I agree. We do get the classic chain suplex sequence, the original Suplex City, as I like to call it, from Angle to Orton, and then we get an Olympic Slam, which is countered to the drop kick for a near fall. Then he gets the Angle Slam for a near fall. He goes again for the ankle lock, which Orton like reverses into this like weird neck breaker, like from behind him onto his back. That was pretty cool looking. I've seen Orton do it before, but it is kind of weird to like compare this Orton to now Orton, where like he didn't do the middle rope DDT, like he
punt.
he didn't do the punt, he didn't do the big like RKO like wind up. He did it a little bit, but he didn't have that whole like full rotation that he does now. Again, Orton's just being mean and nasty. Eventually,
The straps come down.
eventually the straps come down. The RKO gets reversed into the ankle lock, and then once you see Angle lay down, the match is essentially over at that point. Orton taps, Angle gets the win. Post match, I really liked this. Angle leaves, and then Orton gets the heat by himself, and he has to get helped up. And so the trainers come out and help him up, and then after he gets up, he like waves to the crowd, like, "Oh, I'm all right, like thanks," and then they just boom out of the building.
Merciless.
I thought this was a good match. It's not going to be a match of the year contender or anything by any stretch of the imagination, but it was a solid, sound wrestling match. I'm going to give it 3 stars.
I'm gonna give it 3 3/4 stars. I thought it was very good. One thing I have to say is, if you are a wrestling fan and you don't like Kurt Angle, you're not a wrestling fan. I mean, the guy,
Sheesh.
the guy was fantastic.
Oh yeah.
He really was.
He's if it weren't for injuries, he'd probably be the best wrestler of all time. I mean, the guy was incredible. He could do anything.
I agree 100%. I think
the only thing that he lacked was a big aerial game. I mean, he got up there, but I mean, he didn't have any go-to amazing.
Dude was doing moonsaults
Yeah.
off cages.
let's say in TNA, he
All right, never mind.
specifically.
Not
I'm an
even
idiot.
just in TNA. He did some in WWE too.
True, and he did
Yeah.
that. I remember with those TNA match he had against Joe when he did a running senton off the apron. I don't remember
All right,
what pay-per-view
Well,
was that.
forget I said that.
Oh, or there was
I'll
the
go
match
die.
against Mr. There was the match against Mr. Anderson at a TNA show when it was towards
Mister.
the end of Kurt's run, and Kurt did a moonsault off the cage, and I'm just like, dude, what are you doing?
Kurt's the best.
Yeah,
Anyways, I give
agree.
it 3 stars. What about you guys?
I gave it
3 3/4.
Yeah.
So I gave it 3.5. I thought it started out slow and methodical, and it really showed off what Kurt's biggest strength is the mat wrestling. And so they told a story. There was plenty of drama. There was quite a few near falls. And I believe, didn't Orton kick out of an Angle Slam?
He did.
Yeah. So, I mean, there was a lot of good drama here. I will say, when Angle was a heel and I saw him drop down, like you said, when he lays out on that ankle lock, if he was wrestling the Undertaker or something, or my favorite, or a face that I was supporting, if he dropped down, I was pissed because I knew it was like, damn it. Well, Kurt's got this one.
It's getting serious then.
Yeah.
Yeah, a fun match though for sure. And just again, the crowd consistently helped these matches all
so much.
night long. I mean, man, they're
Perpetual energy.
yeah. So up next, we get the FBI versus who here?
Super crazy and Tajiri. Yeah.
Look at that.
Got you.
Yeah. The FBI again are super over.
It's Little Guido and Tony Mamaluke
With Big
Big
Guido
Guido in their corner.
Or as Nunzio, as strict WWE fans might know him better as, which is as he became known once he transitioned to full-time WWE. And of course, Big Guido comes out. And then, but I mean, Super Crazy and Tajiri are also very over. This was kind of a face versus face dynamic in this match. Both teams were cheered on their way out. Again, this match kind of followed a similar arc to the last one. Kind of similar, but like way different at the same time, where it did start with a lot of like mat-based wrestling and submission work. It looks like we had Super Crazy and Mama Luke started this match, and they were in the match for quite a while to begin, doing a lot of nice mat-based wrestling, but it picked up the pace very quickly. There was one really cool spot toward the beginning of the match when Mama Luke had Super Crazy and what is like a triangle or a headlock, and then Super Crazy deadlifted Mama Luke up and like power bombed him on the ground, and he held him up there for a long long time. It was a cool display of power. And then there was a standing moonsault by Super Crazy for a near fall on Mama Luke. Eventually, we get Lil Guido and Tajiri come in, and Tajiri was just like a wind-up toy when he got into this match, because he took, I think he had a majority of the memorable spots in this match, at least in my opinion. He was on fire. He was all over the place in this match. I don't know. What do you guys think?
And squealing the whole time.
Oh man, he was squealing. He Irish ripped someone into the turnbuckle and squealed as he elbowed him. He was just doing all the classic Tajiri moves, a lot of spin
kicking
kicks.
the hell out of people. And that smack off of a Tajiri kick, not many wrestlers can replicate it. And he made every kick sound like it was a death blow. And I will say, both Super Crazy and Tajiri, you didn't see. I mean, you did see a lot of agility from Super Crazy, but you didn't see as much like high flying off the top rope stuff as he's capable of. Those are two of the most underrated mid-carders, because they put it on. They go 100% every night, and they're super entertaining. I mean, Tajiri, he's got so many cool spots. The buzzsaw kick's obviously awesome. The poison mist.
The tarantula.
The tarantula, man. I've never seen anything like that.
We got a double tarantula in this match.
We did, yeah.
With Super Crazy and Tajiri put both of the members of the FBI in the double tarantula. And we also got a double Tree of Woe basement dropkick, which was super cool.
Oh, it was sweet.
This match had some really cool spots.
This match did have some really cool spots.
I think Little Guido, Super Crazy, and Tajiri were all a little underrated in their time in WWE. They were all very good wrestlers.
Well, even Mama Luke was looking pretty underrated.
Yeah, Mama
here.
Luke, but I don't think he really had a long run in WWE at all.
No.
Nunzio, I was surprised to see he's a 2-time Cruiserweight champion.
Dude, he stuck around for a while, it felt like.
He did.
Like the Friday Night SmackDown era.
Even before that, when it was on Thursdays, and he had the FBI with Palumbo and Stamboli, I loved the hell out of that.
Palumbo was in there.
Yeah, Chuck Palumbo, full-blooded Italians.
So, two things that were hilarious.
That was
during this
after
match.
he was gay, by the way.
Oh, with Billy?
Yeah, that's after
Billy and Chuck. And Rico?
After him and Billy broke up, he decided to become a strong man and join the FBI. I wonder
From gay to Italian.
What a career journey, man.
Yeah, I wonder
Chuck Palumbo was.
Do you think Palumbo and Stamboli were together too?
Oh. It was never implied, was it?
I don't think so, but I mean, he was with Billy.
He just abandoned all gay tendencies.
Yeah.
Good for him, man. Either way.
I will say, for like a mid, and this is again, we're getting off track again, but for like a mid 2000s storyline, like they could have done a lot worse with like the whole gay lovers, Billy and Chuck
was done very well.
Like, it was pretty progressive for WWE
somewhat
standards.
tasteful.
Yeah, we're way off base.
But I will say, so Super Crazy, when he was starting to get a good push here, the crowd got a Nacho Libre chant going, which was absolutely hilarious.
That was pretty awesome.
And then another funny part is, so Joey Styles and Taz are on commentary here. Taz, like the whole match, is trying to fake an Italian accent, and he's already got kind of a Brooklyn accent, but he's just like, look at Big Guido, he's huge, huh? Like,
That was awesome. Taz is great on commentary.
Yeah, he's underrated. Yeah, for sure.
That was something else that I noticed kind of throughout the show, was that like how nice was it to not have an obvious face and an obvious heel dynamic. Like you see that so much with commentary, and obviously Taz is kind of always playing a little bit of the heel character.
Tweener.
That's just who he is.
Yeah.
But like in today's WWE commentary booths, you never get like just appear, like it's always an angle, or somebody's always got to be playing the heel or the face. Like in this scenario, it was just nice to have like a somewhat neutral commentary booth. Even when WWE guys were winning, they were kind of just calling the action, and I don't know, I thought it was nice. It was just kind of a little detail I noticed throughout the show.
Also, one detail you're going to notice throughout the show is the mics in the ring are hot.
Oh,
like,
whoever
wired
mic'd up
it,
the
yeah.
ring. Wow, because you could hear the rope squeak in this match at certain
yeah,
points.
whenever they shook.
There was a spot in this match when Big Guido pulled out, I believe it was Tajiri, out of the ring, and like you could just hear every ounce of his body crackling as he hit the floor. It was insane.
It was a gunshot.
And so towards the end of this match, Tajiri kind of just takes out everybody.
And then stares the ref down like he wants some too. That was pretty awesome.
He hit a second leg drop kick onto Little Guido, and then he hit a spinning drop kick to Super Crazy, and he's kind of the lone man standing at that point.
You mean Mama Luke?
Yeah, Mama
Yeah,
Luke.
there
I'm
you go.
sorry.
No, you're good.
He didn't hit his own partner.
Even though he could have at that point, he was kicking everyone.
Well, someone came in at the end of the match and did take out everyone, but we'll get to that.
Okay.
So the end of this match, who was it? Tajiri got taken out.
Yep.
And it allowed the full-blooded Italians to hit the double brainbuster onto Super Crazy for
Strike
the pinfall.
that and reverse it. Super Crazy got out, and then Tajiri got...
Okay.
Yeah, the double fisherman's buster. So they're hooking.
double
They're
fisherman's
both
buster,
hooking
that's
the
right, they're
legs
hooking
and
the
then
leg.
just driving them in. It was pretty sweet.
It was a cool looking tag move, and that got the win. Post match, well,
Well,
you did that way better than I did. Here comes the Big Show, and he just big hossed everybody out of the ring.
Even Big Guido.
Even Big Guido, yeah.
It was like King Kong versus Godzilla for a second.
And the people were eating it up. People liked the Big Show.
Oh, yeah.
well, this is back when he was still like, I mean, they flip flopped him so much, but this is a point in time where he was actually respectable and he was the monster.
Right.
Yeah, and I
And not the
honestly,
crier.
I thought he looked better here than he did at WrestleMania 19.
Oh,
Which
definitely.
this took
yeah.
place 3 years after WrestleMania.
When he didn't have that
19.
gross facial hair.
He wasn't looking drunk uncle in this at all. He was looking pretty good. Yeah, I thought that was a pretty fun match. Again, 3 stars. It wasn't the best tag team match you'll ever see, but that kind of the theme of the show. It was a good, solid match.
I gave it 2.5. I thought it started off really slow, and I thought it got progressively better with some very fun spots. So I'm gonna give it 2.5. I liked it.
I actually gave it 3 just because I just love Super Crazy and Tajiri, man. Super Crazy, the stuff that he would pull off, especially in the first One Night Stand, which I hope we do at some point.
I'm sure we will eventually.
Yeah, was just he lives up to his name, and Tajiri is always fun. Every single signature spot he has is awesome. The FBI, I never was too into. Oh, okay. Thank you. That was very nice of you. The FBI, I was never too into, and I think that there might have been sort of a clash there because I mean, yes, Guido can fly around a little bit, but it wasn't like a classic luchador style match by any means, and I think that's what kind of drug it down a little bit is somewhat as Super Crazy would try to go fast, and then it would just get all bottled all confuzzled up. I made that up, sorry. So 3 stars. That's what I'm getting at.
Nice.
Right on. After that, we get JBL appearing from the balcony, and he just buried ECW hard.
There is no reason for JBL to be here.
But
But
he
it was
also
awesome.
He did
It
the
was-
same
it
damn
was
thing.
hilarious.
He did the same damn thing the year before, though.
Well, but the year before, it had WWE all attacking ECW.
Yeah, and they
This
were
was
all
just-
up in the balcony.
This is just JBL in the balcony by himself. Like, he's just walking along, counting his money, sees that there's an ECW pay-per-view, and decides to go in and talk shit.
Well, and he's like he's the Market Street, or not Market Street, damn it,
Wall Street.
Yeah, Wall Street guru. So he's saying, this is my city, despite being from Texas, and so he's got, of course, hit up the Hammerstein and just absolutely talk shit.
I have a line that I wrote down, actually, that I thought was hysterical.
Go ahead,
He
Pop.
called the fans Star Trek little geeks.
Because they're which he tied into the show being on Sci-Fi,
Right.
Because
Which
the whole
was
time you
genius.
kind of have to remind everybody that this show's on Sci-Fi, and what a good way to like tie that together.
Oh, I was dying. I thought it was the funniest
It was
thing
great.
in the world.
He said he was the king of hardcore, which just got me going.
I love JBL.
Buried ECW, called it backyard level wrestling.
Also, one of the common chants from the ECW crowd is "You suck dick," and so he responded to that with, "You're chanting about a male organ. Who's the real fruit booty?" And I don't know where the hell fruit booty comes from, but it popped me.
I'm surprised the New Day haven't ran with that phrase, fruit booty, yet.
And also just about ends it with "Kiss my ass. This show sucks." Just keeps it short and sweet.
This was great.
It was funny.
It was just like a little
It's just
dash
so
of salt
random
for the crowd.
Yeah, it's just so random. That's why it's so
I
funny.
loved it.
Oh yeah, no, it was awesome. And one thing we kind of talked about, you guys are 3 or 4 years older than me, so you were, in your teens at this point when you're watching this. This is 06. I was 11. And so I was still, as far as the kayfabe went, the bad guys, I hated the bad guys, as long as they were really good at being heels. JBL, I despised this man. And he hit it at the end. He hit his classic wrestling God. And whenever I heard that, that brought back some PTSD, man. I hate that line. But now I respect just how good of a heel he was.
Oh, he was awesome.
He was amazing.
I remember as a kid, I thought he was great. I thought he was so funny.
Yeah, I just hated him.
I think in hindsight, I really appreciate him now. Like looking back, like,
Oh yeah.
what a dastardly heel, and just he always would bring out these wild cards when he needed to. So he's feuding with Eddie Guerrero. What's he gonna do? Oh, he's gonna go and act like Border Patrol.
So
That
Mexican
was
border.
so bad. It's so funny.
it was good.
Man,
it was
he
funny.
was.
Yeah. Different time.
I hated him at the time, but looking back, it's like he was the heel that WWE needed at that time.
Oh,
And
he
I totally
stepped up.
understand
They were
why he got a
hurting.
push.
They were hurting a little bit.
Yeah, he stepped up. That's when Brock left, and
Yep.
you know they didn't have a lot of guys on SmackDown anymore.
When him and Taker feuded for a while, that's probably why I hated him so much, because I'm a huge Taker.
Oh yeah, he had a good feud with Eddie. He had a good feud with Taker. I think he had a good feud with Batista too.
I still remember that Texas Bull Rope match that he and Eddie had for the world title,
Yeah.
for the WWE title.
Brutal.
Man,
We'll have to cover that one.
that match is brutal.
Just
but
whenever
it's-
you heard the ding ding ding,
Oh yeah.
like I was just like, God, here we freaking go again.
Yep. So we
Oh.
got JBL on the show, so that's always good.
Real quick, I would like to
oh,
say,
yeah.
I said freaking like 20 times last episode. Please hold me accountable here. I'm really trying not to use that.
I got him at 2 right now.
He's got the freaking
Damn
counter.
it.
I'll put a freaking counter on the video feed. Each time he says freaking, I'll add a number to it. So up next, we get a world championship match, kind of tucked in the middle
World
of the card.
heavyweight
A world
championship.
heavyweight championship match between Sabu and the reigning champion at the time, ECW veteran himself, by the way, Rey Mysterio. This match
Was a match.
I knew this was going to be a good match, but dang, this was a good match.
I gotta stop you real quick. I miss Rey Mysterio's "Who's that jumping out the sky?"
R.E.Y. Mysterio.
Here we
Here we
go.
go.
That theme was so much better than Booty Cut.
Also, I agree. But also, this is Rey Mysterio is the only man to appear on all 3 of the shows we've reviewed so far.
That's true.
So he
Holy
comes
crap.
out and even though he's wearing his ECW gear, he is heavily booed. In this
Sabu is
arena.
over.
People are crazy for Sabu.
Oh, yeah.
Just looking at Sabu, even back then, like the scars on his body, he's got like this burn mark by his eye that is just gruesome.
Yeah.
He is wearing his
But
battle
I mean, dude,
wounds.
this is the suicidal, homicidal, genocidal, death-defying Sabu, and he is ECW royalty. They worship this man.
Yeah, they love him. So the match starts. This is an Extreme Rules match, by the way. This is the first Extreme Rules match of the night.
And also, the World Heavyweight title has never looked better or more big than on Rey Mysterio's waist. It
It's
took
like
up like
going.
half of
It's,
his
yeah, it's
torso.
going from like his belt line, like almost to his nipples. It feels like this belt's like taking up his entire body. That's a great belt. I got to bring that belt back.
Beautiful.
And when they get in the ring, both of them are holding chairs,
Yeah,
looking to
this was
throw
awesome.
them at each other. It was awesome.
And
They were-
then, so they both have the chairs. The bell rings. They both put the chairs down. Again, kind of a technical exchange to start the match. Really sound. And then they do both get the chairs. And they do what I like to call dueling chair shots, where each man swings the chair into the other chair. They did that 4 or 5 times before the... they eventually just both put the chairs down, I believe. And then Ray... What did he do? Sabu goes for the air Sabu early on in the match. Like, he's getting the greatest hits out of the way early. There's so much innovative chair offense.
Yeah, the leap off the chair into the corner.
Yeah, the leap
Yep.
off the chair into the corner. He does that. And then Ray does something similar and then tries for a 619, misses. And then a table gets brought out a little bit later on in the match. Sabu sets it one side on the barricade, one side on the apron, which nowadays is something you see in like TLC matches all the time in WWE. But at this point, like that was still considered super innovative.
Also, the distance, I mean, you'll explain why, but the distance from the barricade to the apron, you probably could have scooted that barricade in a little bit more.
Yeah, that table was just barely fitting, as that would come into the match later. Another table gets set up on the entrance ramp, but don't worry, both tables will be used prominently in this match. The first one gets used when Ray bounces off a chair, does a springboard off the rope, and does a springboard takedown through Sabu, through the chair. Looks like there was maybe some nut trauma to Ray on that part because it took him a second to get up. They battle back in the ring. A lot of more innovative chair offense. Sabu, and I know Luke mentioned this during the show, but his top rope balance is insane. He teased a springboard move to the outside, which I believe he missed, but the way he can just hop onto that top rope and just almost hover, it's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, he's way better than Mike Awesome from New Blood Rising, who was trying to fall every second. Sabu can just stand there.
This is another thing about the show. We paused the show, I think, after this match, and it was like an hour in. And I was like, man, this show is going by so much faster.
This
than
show
New
was
Blood
awesome.
Rising. This show was like tight, compact. It was about the same length, about 2 hours and 40 minutes, which was about what New Blood Rising was. But this show went by like this, like in a flash compared to New Blood Rising, and that kind of became clear during this match. eventually, they're battling. Neither man hit their finishers. I know Ray didn't hit the 619 at all. He teased it that one time.
Ray went for one and missed it.
He went for one and missed it. And there was an EMT spot in there, which was the mid-rope leg drop, which got a near fall on Ray. And then he did the classic leg drop with the chair under his butt onto Ray. They called it something else, but I always just called it the leg drop with the chair underneath for another near fall. And then we get the big crazy spot of the match. Sabu jumps on a chair, jumps onto the top springboards over, DDTs Ray through the table, which just breaks at the oddest angle you can imagine a table breaking.
Well, it just snaps at like the end that's closest to the apron.
Right on the ring apron.
Yeah, just barely snaps, and so it looks bad. It looks like
bad.
Ray
And it
just
looks like they
crashes
land
it.
on their necks.
Yeah.
So both men are down. And then the trainers and EMTs come out, and I was wondering, like, is this a work? Is this a shoot? But then once, like, the over cartoon trainer, like, did a cartoon character thing, and was like,
"It's
"That's
over."
it." I knew it was a work, but that's how it ended. No contest. This match was like almost too fast to call at some points, but this was just a classic Sabu match, and Ray really, I thought, complimented him well. They had great chemistry. This was going to be a 4-star match for me. But I think the ending, and I understand why they had it end this way. You don't want to have Sabu lose clean in the Hammerstein Ballroom, but you also don't want to have your champion lose, even if it's by shady means. So I understand why they did a no contest. Personally, I just would have liked to have seen a more definitive finish, so it's brought it down from a 4 to a 3.5. But this was great. So far, match of the night to this point in the show, I thought.
So I want to point out there were a couple spots that I loved where Sabu would throw the chair at Rey Mysterio's head. And at one point, I'm just like, oh my God, CTE right there.
Yeah,
like
really.
Sabu's just throwing him like a baseball.
Well, and that's one thing. You'll see this later on. That's one thing he learned from Terry Funk. Terry Funk does not swing weapons, man. He throws those damn things.
And Sabu's doing that. He's just hucking them at
Oh,
Rey.
you do not see that anymore, and there's good reason, man.
I'm gonna give it a 3.5-star match. I think if you're a fan of ECW, Sabu, Rey Mysterio, good matches in general, go back and check this one out. It's not very long. It's like 9 minutes and some change in length. It's just worth the watch. I thought it was fun. I thought it was suicidal, genocidal, homicidal, death-defying. Yeah, all kinds of cool stuff.
So I also gave it 3.5, but I know you were a little disappointed, but you're right. I mean, they booked this very well. 3.5 stars. They had to have a no contest so that Hammerstein didn't riot that Ray won.
And unfortunately, you can't have Sabu win the WWE title.
No,
because
you can't.
He's kind of a wild card. As you don't know what to expect. He doesn't work that style. He's, Sabu.
So this is the 4th match in, right? This is the first time we saw some real hardcore, and this crowd loved it all the way up to this point. I'm surprised they waited so long without hardcore elements, but this is what they waited for: the chairs, the tables, and what else could you hope for in a Sabu match? And also, I kind of want to say, I think this is why there's a few wrestlers that we talked about that just don't fit the WWE mold. Sabu needs a chair.
Yeah,
like that is his thing. That is his gimmick, and if he can't get those signature moves off, he looks kind of stale. He looks a little rough. So you take away the chair, which WWE is not going to allow you to use that all the time, and then you don't fit in, you don't mesh well with the product. So I get why he didn't fit in with WWE, but I love Sabu.
Vince, if you're listening, put him in the Hall of Fame.
Friend of the podcast, Vince McMahon.
Yeah, friend of the podcast, but put him in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, that was fun. And then after that, we got a video package that kind of recapped the ongoing feud between Mick Foley and essentially all of ECW. The story going in was that Mick had turned on ECW and was a corporate shill for the WWE along with Edge.
I got to stop you. I got to time out.
Okay.
This Aerolita is my favorite.
She looks great.
She's probably my favorite. This Aerolita is probably my favorite women's wrestler of all time.
She looks great. She was a great wrestler in her own right.
What she's wearing tonight is bosom shots.
We got the bosom shots. The video package, by the way, leading into this match was great. Basically just recaps everything, how Foley kind of turned his back on the ECW, kind of once I don't want to call it the invasion because that kind of brings certain feelings, but it was kind of an ECW invasion, I guess.
Before the match starts, Foley and Edge are cutting promos and stuff, and Foley screams, "Long live the the Alliance!"
Yeah, long live the Alliance.
Because it was booked well when Stephanie McMahon was the owner.
Yeah, he talked about how well ECW was booked when they had a creative, like, driven person, and that's why I love Stephanie McMahon, which got a lot of heat from the crowd.
Yeah, give it up for her. And then Edge came out and then kind of, was with him. Hey, don't try to talk to these people. And Edge's quote here is referring to the ECW fans. This is like their Christmas, except their Santa is Jewish, fat, bald, and spews a bunch of bullshit.
I loved that because that's like putting down the Messiah.
Yeah,
to
no,
those
that is their savior. Which, I mean, Paul Heyman, a wonderfully creative mind. Maybe shouldn't have been in charge of the finances, and he did make a lot of promises that he shouldn't have. So there was a lot of realism here in this little promo. And then Lita referred to Tommy Dreamer as the innovator of silence instead of the innovator of violence, and that's just a dick move, man.
That was mean.
Yeah.
That was pretty mean. And so here comes the faces after that. Here come Tommy Dreamer and Terry Funk, accompanied to the ring by Beulah, and they come down, and Beulah cut a promo on Lita. And decided, you know what? Let's make this a 3-on-3 exchange.
I need to give you some more quotes, though.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Quote away.
So, Beulah McGillicuddy, I love her, by the way, saying to Lita, I never thought I'd see the day where the trash coming out of your mouth is more disgusting than what's going in it.
That got a nice ooh from the crowd. Well deserved, by the way.
And then, since you like awesome. Threesomes so much, why don't we make this a 3-on-3 match? And so I kind of like how they worked Beulah in, and she got a little promo herself because the ECW fans, Beulah's not a wrestler. She did wrestle a little bit, and she got slammed a lot when she was in WCW. The fans love Beulah.
Yeah, the fans just...
She was the princess.
The fans are just super into Beulah, and then obviously 2 ECW legends with Dreamer and Funk, and Foley, to be fair.
When was Beulah? Was Beulah really in WCW?
Or did I say that?
Yeah.
ECW. No, that's just a Freudian slip, I suppose.
I was real confused. I was like, when was she there?
I don't remember that.
Nope, just me rattling off.
This match, like, to have 3 ECW legends and then Edge, and then I'll count Beulah. I don't want to like belittle Edge, but like Edge, who became a huge star in his own right, and sure, let's add Beulah to the ECW legend list. And I mean, the amount of talent in the ring for this match,
it's
was
fantastic.
insane. So Dreamer and Edge started off. They don't do much together. They kind of just grapple for a little bit, and then Edge tags Foley in first. Foley points to Funk and wants him tagged in. So Funk comes in, and almost immediately they go to the outside and start brawling, and then Dreamer and Edge go out to the outside and start brawling, and the rest of the match is just pure chaos. So they're outside. One of my favorite spots in the whole match happened within like the first 5 minutes, which was Terry Funk had an ECW chair, and he just like threw it up in the air behind his back right onto Foley, like the back of his head. It was awesome.
I'm telling you, he's the OG of throwing chairs, and he's got pinpoint precision. I've seen him throw chairs from the center of the ring to a guy out at the barricade and just clock him straight in the head.
Well, after he threw that chair, he grabbed a garbage can and
he destroyed Edge with that garbage can.
He threw it at Edge and just destroyed it over Edge's head.
Yeah, so he hit Edge with it, and then he threw it outside and hit Foley with it. It was like a 2 birds with 1 stone moment. This match was just pure chaos. It didn't take long for Edge and Foley to go to the ring apron. They pull out 1 empty plyboard sheet. Everybody in the Hammerstein Ballroom knows what's coming next. They pull out a barbed wire sheet, a barbed wire covered plywood sheet, put it in the ring, and they just... the word, I guess, to describe it would be flop it. They just flopped it onto Tommy Dreamer, and the barbed wire got stuck in Dreamer's ear, and it was disgusting. Oh man, and
barbed wire spots are just gross.
Well,
man.
then
they're awesome. But
they were holding it up about to drop it on Dreamer, and Funk trips them, and the barbed wire falls on top of Edge and
Foley. But Foley ate the brunt of it.
Yeah, because Edge like rolled out before it could totally get him. And it just smashed Foley.
Well, and then they picked Foley up, and they just slammed him back first into that barbed wire.
Yep.
That was just...
Because Foley had to take the worst of it, because, I mean, that's his thing.
Oh, yeah.
By the way, rocking the Cactus Jack shirt today. Bang, bang.
And then Edge and Tom are brawling outside of the ring with a baking sheet, which is like, you don't see this very often anymore, so it was kind of fun to see a baking sheet. I think there was like a no parking sign at one point.
But those are like the ECW signatures. They always had a damn baking sheet.
And then that's when the razor wire comes into play.
Yeah.
Yeah, he gets the razor wire out. Funk, by the way, is busted open because he also gets the plywood at one point dropped on him. Foley wraps the wire around his hand and just starts rubbing it into the open wound on Funk's face.
Oh, there's blood everywhere.
Funk is just bleeding like a stuffed pig. He's wearing the crimson mask, and he rolls into the he rolls into the corner, and he's saying, "My eye, my eye, my eye." So
They take him away.
The trainers come out and take him away. The dynamic of the match is different. Now we've got Edge and Foley and Lita kind of free to kill Dreamer and Beulah. And it's worth noting that up to this point in the match, Beulah and Lita's involvement was very minimal at this point. You could almost forget they were in the match because they really weren't doing very much.
They just stood on the apron for like, what, 10, 15 minutes?
Yeah.
That was kind of brutal. And even when you saw Funk go out, and Lita even had a moment of breaking character where she didn't think the camera was on her and looked legitimately concerned
She
for
looked
Terry.
concerned, and then when she realized the camera was on her, she just looked disgusted that she was there.
It was awesome.
Yeah, she played that up throughout the whole match, that when she came out to the ring, she didn't want the fans touching her or anything. She just looked like she did not want to be there. Like Jerry the King Lawler did earlier. She did.
Which is super ironic because Lita's character at this time, she was nasty. She was a nasty little girl.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, 11-year-old. Please don't wink at me. The 11-year-old in me hated. Once again, Edge, fantastic heel as the Rated R Superstar. Hated them licking, like just doing the tongue wagging, like licking each other. Like, no.
Yeah, it was.
I hated him. Disgusted me.
Lita really didn't do much in this match. I think Beulah had more involvement.
She didn't even have like a high fly.
Funk leaves.
Yeah.
Yes, Funk leaves.
The three heels take the bat that's wrapped in barbed wire that comes into play, and they nut Tommy Dreamer.
Yeah,
and then that's
dick
when
trauma. They dick him with that.
And then Beulah is very angry.
Beulah
That's
comes
the
in to
money
save her
maker.
husband and gets Mr. Sacco, and the crowd's chanting, "We want Sandman," and then
Which would have been a fantastic time to bring Sandman in.
I agree. And then Dreamer gets pissed off because they're attacking his wife. And then he gets a Sacco, then a spear, and then guess who comes back?
Terry Funk
With a full facial bandage, like covering one eye.
He looked like like a injured war veteran.
War vet, yeah.
It looks like he's coming out of retirement again, more times than Brett Favre.
And I love Terry Funk, by the way.
Me too.
He's so legendary, and the way he's done so many of these hardcore matches, he's taken so many bumps, he's been busted open so many times. But the way he sells it and he screams, and you can just hear the agony. I also enjoy. He's just a very vocal wrestler.
Yeah.
Like when he's getting punches in, he's literally like screaming and cussing at the guy. You son of a bitch! Your mother's a whore! Just stuff like just going crazy.
Oh, he's always John, and just the way he screams when he's like getting hit with things. So he comes
Or
back
he has
out.
like mini seizures too. That's cool.
He comes out. This time he's got the 2x4 wrapped in barbed wire. Before that, though, he comes in, double dick trauma to both Foley and Edge, gives him the double low blow.
The uppercuts.
Then he takes the barbed wire covered 2x4, kind of turns around. Everyone kind of is wondering what is he doing with that. What's he doing with that 2x4? Sure enough, we all know what he's doing. He lights it on fire, and he just starts whooping the hell out of Foley with this thing. Foley's shirt is like legitimately on fire.
Yeah, he lights it on fire.
And then he gets thrown to the outside, right onto the barbed wire plywood sheet, and then Funk gets knocked to the outside, effectively taking both men out of the match. And then poor Beulah.
Well, Dreamer hits a DDT on Edge.
That's true.
Yep,
and then
Dreamer DDT.
And then he's choking Edge out with the barbed
yeah.
wire. And Lita breaks it up, and then that's when we get a
Cat fight.
Yeah, so Beulah and Lita are rolling around at that point.
Finally got a Joey Styles signature in there.
And then she takes the spear.
Yes, so Dreamer gets taken out, and then Beulah eats this massive spear from Edge.
And I'm sure Lita's done the same.
Oh man! And then he hits Beulah with this destructive spear. I'm ignoring that comment. And then he, I guess the only way I can describe this is he puts Beulah, into a very suggestive pinfall. There was some thrusting in this pinfall for the win. This was a damn good match.
Oh, this had ECW written all over. I'm sorry, I'm still chuckling, but this had ECW written all over it. And you know what? With how not trashy, but trashy ECW style was, the Rated R Superstar would have fit in perfectly. I think he complemented those three very well.
Well, I'm gonna give it 4.25 stars. I think this was the match of the night. I think it was just ECW all over it. I thought for like a 60, I think he was like 64 at the time of this match.
Yeah.
Yeah, something like 64, 65. That was fantastic.
What he put his body through for that age.
Funk
He looked-
and
Terry.
Foley
Yeah.
and Dreamer, they're all just going ham out there. Beulah, who hasn't wrestled in forever, looks great.
Mm-hmm.
Lita
this
always
was-
looks great.
I agree, Kyle. I think this was match of the night. I give it 4 stars. I thought it was like a car crash. Again,
A good car crash.
yeah, it was like it was just chaos from start to finish, and it was just classic ECW with the WWE spin on it, of course.
Yeah, which they did so well in this match.
I think the only thing I wish would have happened during this match is I wish the Sandman would have showed up here
Right.
instead of later. I think the Sandman coming out and caning the hell out of everybody
Would have been so
would have been
cool.
sweet.
even if it was everyone, literally everyone.
Well, not Dreamer and
It would have had to have
Funk.
been Edge. And
it would have to be
Lita
Edge and Lita.
I mean,
Well, it would have to be
and Foley.
Edge and Foley, and then you tease the Lita shot.
Yeah. I think the way that, and well, obviously we're gonna do it later, but I think it was. The more I think about it, it was kind of a wasted Sandman appearance on this show.
Right.
Oh,
yeah.
absolutely.
I think it would have been perfect here, and I think you could have given Funk and Dreamer the win here, and kept the
Yeah.
heat on Edge and Foley too.
Yeah, I agree. But Edge and Foley do get the win, or Edge and Foley get the win.
It's so weird to say that they're a team.
I know. I had to
Yeah,
like,
no,
what?
it's super
What?
weird. Hold on though. 4 stars, and for all those bloodthirsty ECW fans, they got their hardcore fix. Barbed wire, tables, fire, blood, ECW through. Oh, and cat fight. The only thing I wish, besides obviously that Sandman cameo, Lita didn't get like a signature Lita move in.
Yeah,
I
no
wish,
swanton bomb.
I wish you would, or a leg drop. I wish you would have got at least just her one spot in, but please don't. I can see where you're going. I see it in your eyes. You already made the spear joke.
Let's move on.
Okay, thank you.
So,
Next, we've got balls.
next up, we do have a very small backstage with
sorry.
Cena kind of like clutching his belt to heavy booze, and then RVD's kind of like warming up in the back somewhere like a parking garage, it looked like. And then we do get Balls Mahoney versus Masato Tanaka.
There you go.
And this kind of did a little bit feel like a cool down match after that big, like super
Oh,
hardcore
yeah.
tag match, which it wasn't a bad match, I don't think. But Balls Mahoney may have been, besides like obviously like the tag team in general, might have been the most over single performer besides Sandman on this show.
Yeah.
Yeah, the crowd was nuts.
People
for him.
really
They
love Balls
always
Mahoney when he
love
came out.
Balls Mahoney.
And then of course they were pretty quiet for Tanaka, but
But he's awesome.
yeah,
he's a great
he
performer.
did just out of fine in this match. But this was definitely a match to showcase Balls and give him like one more like
the
run
first,
in an ECW ring.
The first one night stand where it had Mike Awesome, Masato Tanaka, that's the wrestling match you want to go watch. But this one, yeah, they got an awesome. I mean, yeah, they got Balls Mahoney, who once again, even though he was a mid-carder, he was ECW royalty, and those fans, he's like the cult favorite. They love him.
Yeah, this was a pretty short match. Most of it happened outside, but it started inside. Right off the bat, Balls hits a big forearm and then a big power slam for a near fall to Tanaka. They go outside. Balls took a drink from somebody out of the stands. and
like a
then
Guinness.
Took a drink out of it and then just bashed it over the head of
Very,
Tanaka
very loud.
And
very
then he
hard.
did it again.
with a water bottle. So-
Yeah.
Oh,
No,
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 with
he
a
got
light
another-
beer.
Oh,
he
yeah,
he
that's
did it with
right.
a Guinness and then a light beer.
And
then-
Tanaka did it with the water
Yep.
bottle, which was fun. They did more fighting outside. Tanaka did get a superplex to Balls Mahoney for a near fall, which was like a minute later. Balls got his own superplex for a near fall to Tanaka. They both get a chair. We get dueling chair shots again, and then Tanaka drops his chair, and then Balls winds up and just almost takes Tanaka's head off with the chair shot.
Oh, it was brutal.
It was awesome, and then pins him for the 1-2-3.
That was easily the hardest chair shot of the night.
It was one of the hardest ones I've seen, I think.
Yeah.
Just bent the chair back, and he showed it off to everybody with his custom Balls chair. And and he also got his little shake, rattle, and roll, the balls.
Oh, yep.
Balls, and I mean the crowd eats that up.
Rest in peace, Balls.
Yep, rip balls.
Yeah. Was this his last kind of like appearance for the WWECW?
No. I
No,
think
he
he
was
was
in
on it.
WWE
Yeah.
ECW
That's
quite a
good.
bit.
I
That's
think
good.
he had a match with Matt Stryker at some point. I
He
don't think it
definitely
was
was
very
involved.
good, but
Okay. Well, I mean, as long as he got to I think this was definitely just like an opportunity for him to like be like, hey, this might be the last time we get to be here in Hammerstein. You got to get in there because the crowd loved him. Pretty all right match. I'm gonna give it 2.5 stars. It was a good come down match after that kind of intense Extreme Rules match before it.
I also gave it 2.5 stars. Could have gone a little bit longer, I think, to bump the grade up. I think it was, again, a cool down match and to get you ready for the main event.
Yep, 2.5 stars, and I kind of agree with you. I mean, Balls had already exhausted all of his moveset, let's be honest. But Masato Tanaka, I think he was the dummy here. He had to be the guinea pig, the throwaway for Balls Mahoney, and that's kind of sad because he is a very good wrestler. And if you pair him with anyone technically sound at all, they would have put on a classic, or at least could put on a classic. So I mean, yes, he was the sacrificial lamb in this pay-per-view, but well, there's a couple others, but yeah, he was one of them. 2.5 stars.
So after that, we get a short video package hyping up the main event between Rob Van Dam and John Cena. We go through kind of the history of the feud, how RVD won the Money in the Bank contract and made his decision that he wanted to cash it in against Cena on this pay-per-view in the Hammerstein Ballroom in front of all of the original ECW fans. Pretty solid video package. Hatchet Man sign sighting. Whoop whoop. Where's the fam at? 3 for 3, so let's see how many shows in a row we can get the Hatchet Man sign. And then after that, we get not the main event, but as the ring announcer is getting ready to announce the competitors to the ring, here comes everyone's favorite disabled character in wrestling history, Eugene? Question
Oh my
mark?
God, I actually was a Eugene mark.
Eugene was super over in his time. So
Dude,
he comes
was
up to the ring,
awesome.
and I think the three of us, I mean, obviously Kyle knew for sure where this was going. I had somewhat recently seen the show. Luke maybe had never seen it all the way through.
I think maybe I had, but it was a long time ago. I forgot this happened at all.
But I think all three of us knew what was happening once we saw Eugene come
And
to the
again,
ring.
I'm sidebarring here, but I thought the Eugene character was pretty good. I thought that it wasn't terribly done. Like, you know, with the uncle who didn't really want him there, that was trying to
Uncle
get him,
Eric.
that was trying to get him screwed over by William Regal and Triple H and all that stuff. And I thought he'd always overcome the odds. And Nick Dinsmore is a great wrestler too. So the matches he had were pretty good, and I think he played the character great. I think the character was for the most part tastefully done.
I will say that Nick Dinsmore, he did his homework, and yes, Eugene, a mentally disabled character, poor taste, I mean, on paper, but they could have made this so much worse. And Nick Dinsmore, you can tell he had done his research, he had looked up some mannerisms, and he really owns it here. And they somehow are able to make it tasteful because he is the fan favorite, and he does overcome the odds, and people just love, they ate that up.
Except for tonight.
However, tonight this wasn't handled so well, and he did not overcome the odds. So he comes out and is hated off the bat because, again, WWE guy. But all the poor guy does is come out and put over ECW, talks about how much he loves ECW.
Writes a poem.
It's a poem.
Wrote this beautiful poem and was reciting it for all these people. They hate him, and then...
Can I give you a line?
Yeah, please do.
I love the ECW fans. They make me want to howl. When I take a bath, I want to use Taz's towel.
Which is great. And so then he says, I only have 10 more stanzas left. The crowd groans. And then here comes Sandman. They get a good close-up on him, just dragging his cigarette. He's got his kendo stick. He's got his beer. He throws the cigarette down.
Best entrance ever.
Oh, the entrance is
Sandman's.
great. He comes down. Of course, he chugs his beer, and then he smashes the can over his head. I think he did that with 3 or 4 cans, just on his way.
He does it however
down
many
to the
he
ring.
needs to get busted open.
So he comes down to the ring, and we all know what's happening. He just destroys Eugene with the kendo stick.
And then, this is awful, he's beating the hell out of Eugene, and he's getting the crowd, trying to get the crowd to chant sped, and it was awful.
Yeah, no, that was easily the most cringeworthy part, and I couldn't really. You could tell he called an audible on that. That was not. There's no way that was scripted. Only like 5 or 8 people in the crowd were joining him in. The rest were like,
Like that's.
It was a little uncomfortable.
I know it's ECW, but that's too far. I was very uncomfortable on that.
It was, yeah. There was not.
I thought the whole segment was funny except for that part.
Yeah, that.
Well, that part I like cringe laugh like oh.
Yeah,
Yikes.
no, it was a collar puller. It was a yikes.
It was
a yikes.
I was sitting there saying, "Sandman, stop!"
But then once he got the double canes and chased Eugene out of the arena, just caning him with both hands, it was the fans forgot pretty quick.
Yeah.
I will say this did feel, like I mentioned earlier, kind of like a waste of a Sandman appearance on the show.
Yeah.
There's other.
It just felt like we got to get Sandman on the show. Like it felt like they had the show all scripted and put together, and then they're like, "Oh, you know who we forgot to put on the show? It's the
Yeah, you're
Sandman."
absolutely right.
Yeah, exactly. And again, Sandman should have been involved in the six-person intergender tag match. I think that was the perfect spot for him. Or give him a match like they did with Balls and Tanaka. Make that
Yeah,
could have been a
seriously.
squash.
make it a tag team match or something.
Seriously. Well, yeah, and you're right. The Sandman was totally an afterthought here. He's not a great wrestler, even though he does have some cool go-to moves. The White Russian leg sweep with the kendo stick is really cool. But when you think about it, Sandman is the ultimate save guy. Like, you could have had him save any ECW original that was in a tough spot. And so, yes, it definitely was a missed opportunity here.
I think Sandman also kind of goes along with Sabu that he needs a weapon in his hands at all times.
Yes.
with
Yeah,
the cane.
question.
Yeah,
Even more so.
Without the
Yeah.
without the
Because, I
kendo
mean,
stick, he's not nearly.
not the Sandman.
Sandman's not a great
For sure.
wrestler. I mean, I love him. He's fun to watch.
He's a cigarette
Yeah,
smoking
I mean,
drunk
like you said, that
with a kendo
entrance
stick.
is just electrifying. Still to watch it now, it just gets you pumped up.
Just a fun story. That T-shirt he was wearing, it had the Sandman logo on the front, and then on the back it said, "Warning: keep out of reach of children, because Sandman promotes drinking, smoking, and ass kicking." I definitely bought that shirt and wore it to school in middle school. I think it was middle school, maybe freshman year. But they made me change my shirt in the middle school, and I don't understand why.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I can never
fathom.
imagine why.
I know.
Can't fathom that, huh?
Yeah.
So after that little segment, it is now time for the main event. Rob Van Dam versus John Cena for the classic spinner WWE Championship.
And RVD is over.
RVD.
The whole effing show, baby.
The whole crowd is ready for this RVD title run, I think, at this point. I don't know how much they actually believed that it would happen, but they were ready for it. And then Cena comes out, and he got one of the... I mean, this was like Tommaso Ciampa in NXT levels of, like, negative reaction that he got coming out. And he was eating it up, not only during his entrance, but for the entire match. You could just tell that he was loving, like, playing the heel for once at this stage of his career.
Go ahead.
I love that he would try to throw his hat and shirt to the crowd, and they'd throw it back.
That happened 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, it was funny. And he easily had the biggest heat of the night.
Well, no,
Easily.
dude, he has the most heat of anyone in any arena ever, in my opinion. I know that there's some times, like in Japan, and when the NWO turn with Hogan happened, they were pissed there. But man, this is top. This is top of the line, the most heat you can get in an arena, and I forgot about this. And Cena really, really played that heel role well.
He
had the
did.
time
You could
of
tell
his
he was
life.
eating it up. You could tell he was just really enjoying himself the whole time. So the match starts. Cena gets a shoulder tackle in, and then RVD goes for his classic, goes for the enziguri, misses with the other leg, comes back and hits it. They go outside. They brawl into the crowd, which is just for Cena to like be willing to go into the crowd of the show. And granted, he had a security detail, I'm sure, around him. You could see one of the security guys for sure, but for him to like be totally game to go into the crowd and just like fight RVD out there for a while, I thought was pretty cool. There was a moment when he took a "fuck Cena" sign from a fan and then like pressed it against Rob Van Dam's face, like used it as a weapon. It was pretty cool. Again, he was eating it up the whole time. Sends RVD into the steps outside. The steps will come into this match again later, but they're brawling outside for, I feel like, quite a while.
Oh, yeah. No, they drew it out, and they got a lot of good fan interaction. Also, a chant that I found quite peculiar was Cena swallows, and I mean, what are they saying? Does he swallow his gum? Like, what are they? I don't know what they're talking about
I think
there.
they're talking about what Lita and Edge do.
I'm sorry?
Nothing.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
So there's one pretty cool spot when Cena was out on the apron, and then Cena was out on the barricade. Sorry, RVD got on the apron, hits a leg drop to the outside. They go inside. RVD gets the chair. He does the classic basement dropkick with the chair spot, which the crowd eats up. I mean, the crowd was so behind RVD for the duration of this match. Every time he pulled out a signature move, it would be crazy. And then soon after that, he hits the Rolling Thunder with the chair for a near fall. They are ready to see this title change. They are amped up. Cena hits a deep six. I don't know what it's actually called, but it's a deep six.
That thing he does all the time where he ends up having his arm across their crotch
Yeah,
and chest.
he like spins the guy around and
Yeah.
gives him like a sidewalk
To
suplex.
which the crowd responds, well, they were saying they were chanting, "You can't wrestle" the whole time, and then they said, "Same old shit" right there.
Yeah, and at one point RVD gets sent into the corner through this chair, into this chair that was in the corner, into the post. But he like launched himself into this chair. Like
Oh,
we
he
watched it on
oversells
replay. Yeah, and his head like goes through like
gored
the
the
folded
chair.
part of the chair. Yeah. And then Cena gets the 5-knuckle shuffle, which the crowd does not like. He goes for the FU. It gets countered into a spin kick. RVD tries for a moonsault with a chair. Cena kind of gets like his knees up under the chair. And then he goes for another top rope moonsault, which then Cena kind of like counters into. It was kind of like a power bomb, but like he had him just on the side and just slams him down.
Nice spot.
Yeah, RVD goes out to the back, out of the ring, gets a table, brings it in, sets it up in the corner, tries to put Cena through it. Cena counters, and then suddenly, a disguised man in a motorcycle helmet comes in.
With long hair hanging out the helmet.
And it's worth noting this is after the referee gets taken out.
After
Two of them.
John Cena lariats the ref to hell, and then who was the ref that came in?
Nick Patrick.
Nick Patrick.
Hey,
Luke's favorite ref.
Nope.
There was an F Nick Patrick chant. for
Nick
some
Patrick,
reason.
friend of my podcast.
Friend of the podcast, Nick Patrick.
Taz to him, Nick Patrick to me.
I don't know why we have heat on a referee, but
Luke has serious
He
problems
sucks.
with Nick Patrick.
You're not slick, I can tell you what.
Hey Nick, Luke will challenge you to a wrestling match in my backyard.
what if he takes us up on it?
Well, we got
It'll be
Luke
on the
versus
YouTube-
Nick Patrick.
It'll be on the
Yeah.
YouTube channel.
I'll ref.
Yeah,
I'll
that's
make
not
sure-
some. Yeah,
I'll
that's
make
some
sure.
extra
I'll book it,
content.
and I'll make sure that Patrick goes over.
Okay.
What?
So Nick Patrick comes out. There's a near fall, and F Nick Patrick chants. At some point,
See, they agree with me.
Patrick takes a bump.
Yeah, I missed the bump.
I didn't see it happen, but that's when. And the only
See,
reason I
I thought
noticed
he
so
got spilled over with
he
like
might
almost
have.
an FU.
Yeah, because that's a
That's
good
an
point.
attitude adjustment for you
Cena,
kids.
Cena hits the kind of hits like a modified FU outside of the ring to RVD, which is when Patrick goes down, which is when Edge runs in. He's the man under the motorcycle helmet, spears Cena through the table. RVD hits the frog splash. The ref's still down. He can't get Patrick to like come back to life. And Paul Heyman runs out, gets the pinfall. 1, 2, 3. Rob Van Dam is the WWE champion.
Which is amazingly fitting. But can I say, the crowd chants "Thank you, Edge" over and over for spearing Cena, which I get. But I mean, you're saying thank you to the person that just killed your legends and then humped Beulah McGillicuddy while pinning her.
That's
So
how bad they did not want Cena to win this match.
they threw all of their morals out the window.
But this match was awesome.
This was a
Amazing.
classic.
Amazing.
I think the crowd bumped this
Elevated
match up
it, definitely.
even more.
I will say, and I know you two don't necessarily totally agree with me, I do think the end of this match was a bit overbooked, just with the multiple ref bumps and Heyman coming in, which I know it's you know, it's supposed to be the ECW guy crowning the ECW guy as the champion, and I get all that. It just felt a tiny bit overbooked. It didn't really take too much away from the match for me. It was still a really good match, and just seeing RVD go through the crowd, go up to his wife, and I mean, the fans are all over him. He's celebrating in the stands. He hugs his wife. He's got the belt.
This is his lifetime moment.
What a feel-good moment for any wrestling, not just ECW, but any wrestling
And the
fan.
ECW wrestlers come out and celebrate too, including Big Show.
And
Kurt Angle, yeah.
Including Fonzie, who I know no one else cares.
He was begging for Fonzie for this entire show.
Fonzie, you know, the whistling little referee who followed RVD everywhere. He was in the back and didn't come out with him. He didn't make an appearance. Fonzie is a huge part of ECW, and he wasn't there at all. And then all of a sudden, he's there celebrating.
So
with
okay,
RVD.
I think I've got this figured
Salty.
out. I think I know why he's so salty about Nick Patrick, because he wasn't Fonzie.
I think you're
I think
right.
I'm onto that.
Nobody
think
can
you're
be
onto it.
Fonzie.
I think I'm onto that.
I do have to say, the ending of this match was great. Loved it. So happy. And I'm disappointed how the RVD title run ended with
Yeah.
Yeah, he ended up shortly after famously getting pulled over,
with Sabu smoking some J's.
smoking weed, and then he lost the title on TV, right?
Yeah, on Raw.
And that was essentially the end of a major WWE win for our Rob Van Dam. Ended way too soon.
He came back, but he was never really pushed to the moon
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
So
He won the TNA title, but
for this one kind of cherry picked moment, this was just what an awesome way to end this show.
It was magical.
And just one of those moments that you feel proud to be a wrestling fan.
I loved it.
Well, and you did say it was overbooked, but him and I, you also admit to not watching a ton of ECW back in the day. Please go watch some ECW back in the day, because you want to talk about some chaotic endings and overbooked endings. This almost felt like a harken back to that. You know, I mean, referees hit the deck all the time. It's ECW, for goodness sake.
Right.
So.
It was definitely not as bad as anything from New Blood Rising last week. I'll concede to that.
God, this was such a breath of fresh air.
I thought I give it 4 stars. It was a classic match. I mean, I know earlier I said I think the tag team match was my match of the night with Edge and Foley, but this was right up there too. This was a really solid match. Cena played the heel card so incredibly well.
He was very good.
So I gave the tag team match a 4.25 rating. I'm gonna give this 4.24.
Whoa!
Because this match was very good also, but I don't think it was good as the tag team match, but only by a little tiny bit.
Yeah. And that's how we went off the air. That was
Hold on.
One Night Stand.
Man, just getting skipped on the ratings here. I gave it 4. Would have given it 4.5, but no Fonzie.
No Fonzie. Sorry,
Wow.
man. That was New Blood Rising. Overall thoughts on the show?
Hold on.
That was not
That was
New Blood
definitely
Rising.
not New Blood Rising.
That was not New Blood Rising, Zach.
That was ECW One Night Stand.
Sorry,
2006.
we had to jump down your throat on
Yeah,
that.
well, I was about to
That
kill
was
you.
okay. That was kind of the opposite of New Blood Rising in a lot of ways.
Hey, we're
Completely.
looking for a new podcast partner, so.
Hopefully, you know how to run a board.
Ooh.
Yeah, we're kind of screwed. So if you're like a technical wizard, hey Taz, you know how to do this.
Firing Zach.
Yikes. And actually, that did kind of lead into something I wanted to talk about, where I was going to actually mention that this show was kind of the opposite of New Blood Rising in a lot of ways, where
Yeah.
New Blood Rising was like consistently overbooked and overthought and silly and gimmicky, and this was just like a wrestling show,
Right.
and it wasn't overthought, and it was really straightforward, and the right people won, and it felt, I don't know, it felt compact, even though it was the same length. It just felt it felt
Watching
more
New
put
Blood
together.
Rising was such a chore, and this
It was.
This was oh my god,
This was a really good show.
this
So-
felt so good.
We rate the shows, like on an A to F scale, and I'm gonna give this an A minus. Because the first ECW run One Night Stand is like an A plus show.
Hell yeah.
And this one was not quite that, but I liked it a lot. I loved it.
Yeah, I give it B+. I thought it was a very good show as well.
Yeah, B+, and it had it all, man.
Haters.
I mean, it had it all. Calm down, man. No Fonzie. Had it all. So it had wrestling, storytelling, violence, everything at that Hammerstein Ballroom, which they are harsh, as you could tell if you watch this.
For sure.
Had everything they needed. And one thing, I mean, we mentioned it before, this, even though we have hindsight, this was a perfect setup to the new ECW revolution. It set the table for that WWE ECW mashup to just take off, which they buried. It makes you so sad to think, but man,
It could have been something.
they
And
killed it here.
If they could have kept Kurt Angle in there instead of
Yes.
him going away.
Yes.
And, Christian came back towards the end. It was in it. And then you had CM Punk
Yep.
come in and John Morrison. If you could have mixed those guys with the ECW originals, there are a couple other guys like Monty Brown came in as Marcus Corvon.
Pounce.
And there was Kevin Thorne, who had the cool vampire gimmick for a little bit. It could have done a lot
And maybe
more.
less
agree.
of Kelly Kelly.
No.
Instead, we got the Big Show, Bobby Lashley, and Vince McMahon.
Well, you win some, you lose
and
some.
Viscera and Mark Henry had
Yeah,
a big
the list
run.
goes on and on.
Yeah.
It kind of towards the end just became like
I
the
think
developmental territory.
I think
for
Ezekiel
WWE.
Jackson was actually the last ever ECW champion.
I think you're right.
He
Actually,
Yep.
beat Christian, unfortunately. Christian, friend of the podcast.
friend of the podcast.
Oh,
Christian.
a massive friend of the podcast. Edge, you too. I know I hated you here, but I love you.
Yeah, I thought this was a solid show, and
I think you really, if you're a wrestling fan, you should
You
really
should
check
check
this
it
one
out,
out.
yeah.
I mean, I think you should watch both the first and second ECW One Night Stand because phenomenal work.
Yeah, I love the first one a lot more. I've watched it a lot more, but this is so satisfying. And this one had the storybook ending.
can I tell you guys something?
What?
I've never seen the 2005 One Night Stand.
Well, we know what we're gonna have to be getting in on soon.
We'll have to add it to the
after
list.
you're
But
fired.
what's coming up next week, Kyle?
So next week we have TNA Turning Point.
We're doing a TNA show.
Yeah, and this is a very infamous TNA show for the wrong reason, but I think it's going to still be a solid show.
I think the matches are pretty good. I am actually spacing out on the year. I think it's 2009.
Somewhere around there.
When Jeff Hardy was
Intoxicated for the
Messed
main
up.
event against Sting.
well,
Yeah, which was so that's the reason the show's remembered, and not just in TNA circles, but in wrestling circles.
But we want to go through the whole show because the rest of the guys are overshadowed, and I'm pretty sure there's some good matches on that card.
I'm sure there will be. So
I-
look forward to that next week.
I know AJ Styles, Matt Hardy, Kurt Angle are all on the card. So
and I'm super glad that we were able to WrestleMania 19 starting it off great. We had that crap of New Blood Rising, and then we got refreshed here with this one. So the next one, not only are we getting another promotion, we're getting an even balance. So please let us know what you think.
Yeah, give us more suggestions to listen to.
We need some feedback.
We've got a few suggestions up on Facebook, but
Yep.
we want more.
Yeah, reach out to us.
I'll
please.
post something again and maybe have you guys help me pick something else.
Yeah.
We'll even
And-
shout you out for suggestions.
Yeah, we'll shout you out and buy a T-shirt, support
Please.
us,
Yeah,
keep the
And,
dream alive.
Please
Even
be a
if
friend.
you guys are listening and aren't using Facebook, shoot us an email. We're at bigboysandbodyslams@gmail.com. So just our podcast name at gmail.com. We check the inbox every day. So just send us any general feedback or show requests or anything. We love you guys.
Keep
Can
supporting.
we get a sweet little graphic like right down here?
Yeah, sure. I'll put something in. And we love you guys, every
Fonzie's
single one
face.
of you guys listening. Too sweet. And we'll see you guys
Too
next week.
sweet.
Thanks, guys.
Thank